So before we talk about how exactly to get it published and choose an appropriate journal, I want to start with what you should consider before publication. Okay, so the first thing that I would advise you to do is choose a publishable topic. Okay, what I mean by publishable topic, I mean that editors and things that haven't published a lot, you need to have something new. So you need to consider what are the current trends in your area. What you could do for that, you could look at the current issues of prominent journals in your field. So you need to go to the journal website, you can look at its current issue, a few back issues, and you can look at the topics to see what is being published in good journals these days. It'll give you some ideas and it will keep you informed about the trends in your area. The second thing that I would advise you to do is write your research according to good international standards of research. Now, once you have gone through the titles, you know what is being published, what is a publishable topic. Now, you could go through the articles. You could start reading the articles and see what type of literature review has been done, what kind of methodologies are being used, what is the extent of the literature review, how extensive is it, what are the things that need to be written while writing a methodology, what are the ethical protocols being followed, and you need to do that appropriately in your own research, conduct a proper analysis, and write in academic language. When we read other papers, it's good if you could notice the kind of sentences that they use, the kind of language that they use, the words that are being used, in order to know what are the academic protocols that need to be followed in good research journals. Lastly, I would say write your paper with proper headings, proper sections. Abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, discussion, and conclusion are the common parts of a research article that we focus on. It could differ a little bit for different fields. You could choose according to your appropriate journal. Usually, when you choose a journal, they have this format given on their website. So you could choose it accordingly. You could write your paper accordingly. So these are the things that you need to consider before publication. Is your topic researchable? Is your topic publishable? Is it something that the editors and the readers would be interested in? You should consider that before starting your research. Now, after talking about before publication, I want to talk about while writing. So while writing, what are the things that you need to think about when you start writing your manuscript? The first thing that we should do as authors, and it seems like a simple thing, but it really helps out, is you should think like a reader. So start thinking before you write that as a reader, what would you like to know about this topic? What is it that a reader would be interested in? And write accordingly. One thing that you could do for the readers is try to summarize the main message or the main argument of your paper and highlight it by putting it in the abstract and the introduction for the reader. So if you know that this is the main argument, we as researchers, we as writers are very clear about our research because we have conducted it. We have gone through all the steps, but the reader is not that well aware of our research. So if at the very beginning they get an idea of the main argument of your paper, it clarifies things for them. So it's very important that you highlight your main argument, your main finding, your main message of the paper in the abstract and in the introduction for the reader. Another thing that needs to be highlighted is the novelty of your work. If a lot of work has already been done, already been published on your chosen area, why would the editors be interested in publishing your work? You need to highlight and bring out that newness of your paper. I will quote a personal example here. Me and Dr. Nadia Agha, we were working on textbooks. And we were looking at gender analysis, gender from a patriarchal and citizenship perspective in textbooks. We worked on primary textbooks, we worked on secondary textbooks. Now, a lot of work has been published about gender representation in textbooks. So when we sent it the first time, we were asked by the editors, we were told by the editors that it doesn't seem like there's something new in your paper, right? And that is why it was rejected. And obviously there were a lot of new things in our paper, but we hadn't highlighted them properly. So when we sent a redraft of our paper, we changed our abstract and our introduction, and we highlighted that this is new because it's on Sindhi language textbook. It's new because it's a pictorial analysis of primary textbook. So whatever the new things were, the main findings that were new, we highlighted that in the paper, and that helped us get published. And as you would see in the end on the list, there are 2 papers published from that project already. So you need to bring out the newness of your paper. Make your article discoverable. Now, when we search for articles, all of us, when we are studying a new topic, when we are looking for something, we use certain words, right? We use these keywords that we use, that we try to get our topic, and the search engines use those keywords to highlight, to identify things for us that might be relevant, and they match it with the title, with the keyword given in the article, and with the abstract. So these are the things where you need to select your words properly, because this is how your article would be discoverable. People would be able to find your article based on your title, keywords, and abstract. So use catchy words, use things that people will use to find such an article, and think about words that you want people to find in your article, and they should be able to search it appropriately. Think of yourself as a person who wants to find out a study relevant to yours. What would you be searching for? And then use those words appropriately. Now, preparing your manuscript. As the screenshot shows on the left-hand side, whenever you are looking at journals' websites, there are instructions for authors. This is a very reputable international journal, a journal of comparative and international education. It has got these tabs on the left where there is instructions for authors. Now, this is something that you need to go through in detail before you submit your manuscript. Prepare your manuscript according to this criteria. All good journals have these instructions or guidelines for authors. You should go through them in detail. If there is a template available, go through them and prepare your document accordingly. I have had instances where the editors would send it back immediately because they thought that the layout was not okay. So thank you, Nadia. It's better if you go through the instructions and prepare your manuscript accordingly. Now, you don't out, make the corrections, but it delays the process. So it's better if you try and stick to the format so that it doesn't postpone your publication. Obviously, all researchers, we want to keep getting published as soon as possible because it's already a very long process and it takes a long time. So these are minor things that you could do to delay, to help not delay. Anonymize your paper, prepare files in accordance with journal's criteria. You're supposed to send anonymous manuscript as well as a main document with author details. Sometimes they ask for a title page and an anonymous article. So go through the journal's criteria and prepare your files accordingly. When we are anonymizing, if you've quoted yourself within the article, there are instructions on how you can anonymize that as well. You can't quote your own self within the article because that will help the reviewers identify you, and the editors need to send the reviewers anonymized documents. Sometimes in research papers, they have a lot of different types of articles that could be published there. There could be research articles, book reviews, review articles, short articles, and there are descriptions of those on the journal's website. So please go through them and choose the appropriate article that you are submitting. Moving on. Prepare your reference list according to the criteria. So it's very easy for editors to spot errors in the reference list, and all journals have different referencing criteria. So it's good if you look at the journal's referencing criteria, prepare your referencing list accordingly. It avoids delays. You should also pay attention to the journal's instruction about section formats and lengths, your layout, word limits. Please stick to it. Don't make your article too long or too short. Spellings, they are really, some journals are very considerate about the spelling conventions used, whether you should use US or British spellings. That is also mentioned. And if it's mentioned, that means they are keen on you using the right kind of spelling. Abbreviations, whether it should be used or not, usually in academic writing, they advise you not to use abbreviations. And what kind of abbreviations are okay? Mention how you should give your figures and tables within the articles as a separate document, each figure on a separate file. The instructions are there, follow them appropriately. There are guidelines about specific submission, how you should name the file, how you should upload it on the website. They usually have a portal where you can make an account and you can start submitting. Moving on, finding an appropriate journal. I think that's something that all of us are very interested in. This is something that you would like to know, I believe, how exactly, especially for novice researchers, new researchers don't know where to get published, what is a good journal. So let's take a look. If you're in Pakistan, even if you're the good HEC, Higher Education Commission's database of research journals where Pakistani academics are advised to publish. It's www.hars.hec.gov.pk. Now, if you look at the screenshot on the left, it says journal search, discipline-wise search on the top. So you could choose your discipline. If I'm choosing education or English literature, then all those journals would appear. You can choose the category, so it's like W, X, Y. These are all very good journals. The W category is the highest and it's well-reputed journals. Y is a little lower, but it's still peer-reviewed, dependable journals that you could publish in. So you could search there, and then you could go to the journal's website and check their impact factor or site score. Impact factor or site score are good measures of a journal's quality. Obviously, they're not the only measure, but they are a good measure. What is impact factor or site score? It's calculated according to a formula, but it depends on the number of citations that the journal has. So how many people have referred to articles published in that journal. So it shows the journal's reputation. If a lot of researchers are using articles from that journal, it means that this must be a good source. So it's the number of articles that have been cited by other researchers that are published in that journal. So in social sciences, the impact factor starts from 0.2, 0.3, and then it goes on to 3, 4. In sciences, it's much higher. In sciences, like I think Nature is the one that has the highest impact factor, and something like I don't know, but it goes above 10 as well. Check the aims and scope of the journal, and if your journal article doesn't fall under the aim and scope of that journal, you will face a desk rejection. A desk rejection means the editor will not send it for review, and they will go through it and they will send you a rejection email. It will only delay your publication. So choose an appropriate journal, go through their details and see if your article actually falls in their scope. If it doesn't, send it to somebody else. Another journal finding tool is Elsevier's. Elsevier's journalfinder.elsevier.com. Elsevier is a good publisher of journal articles. As the logos were mentioned on my first slide, Elsevier, Taylor & Francis, Wiley journals, these are good, reliable publishers which have good journals. So if you put your paper title and your abstract and keywords and field of research on the Elsevier Journal Finder, they give you suggestions for journals that you could publish in. This is a really helpful tool you could explore, especially if you're new researchers. you would find that very useful. So finding an appropriate journal is very, very important for the publication process. If you do not send it to an appropriate journal, it will delay the process for you. Now, coming to the final stage, submitting the actual paper, check the submission guidelines, make an account on the journal's portal. You're asked to submit your details, title, abstract keywords, upload files, then you go through the proofs and agree to terms and conditions. It doesn't take very long if everything is ready in advance. Sometimes they ask you for a covering letter. If you have any specific concerns or issues to highlight, that can be done in that section. Sometimes, say, for example, people have taken their articles out of their own thesis. Their thesis is on the repository, so it might come as plagiarized if the editors put it in Turnitin. So you could mention that in the covering letter for the editor. Some journals ask you to recommend reviewers or point out any that you would not like the article to be sent to. Recommended reviewers should be experts from the area of your research, not your friends. They should be experts from the area of your research. Preferably people quoted in your work. So if you've quoted them, if you've referenced to them, it helps. And you're required to name the reasons as well. In my experience, they do approach the reviewers that do that. So it's good to recommend somebody that you know that will publish, that will review your article, as that will help quicken the process. All right, finally, some tips. Proofread thoroughly. Find a friend that you can do this for and ask for a favor in return. Me and Nadia do it often for each other. Start with a higher impact or rating journal and move slowly down. So if you send it to a good journal, hopefully you'll get some reviews, and that can make your paper better, because if they send you reviews and you can use them and you work on them, and then you send it to a little lower impact factor, then it will help. I sent an article to a 1.8 impact factor journal. It got rejected with very detailed reviews. Me and my co-author will now work on the reviews as much as possible and send it to a journal with an impact of around 1. So hopefully we'll get published there. So it's how you it can help you publish still in reputable journals, but somewhere appropriate. So aim for a higher one and then see if it gets in, well and good, very good. If it doesn't, then you can try something a little lower. Don't start with the lowest thing. Don't underestimate your own work. Check if the journal has a publication fee well in advance. If it does, check why. If the journals are open access, they charge a fee. Open access means that the readers can access your articles without paying a fee. Most journals are not open access, but some of them are. If it's an international journal, it costs a lot, because obviously Pakistani currency is lower. So it becomes a lot in Pakistani rupees. If it's a Pakistani journal, almost all Pakistani journals, I think, are open access. You can access the articles on their website. So they charge a fee. Most Pakistani journals charge a fee, 10 to 15,000 rupees. It doesn't mean, sometimes when they charge fees, these are not reliable journals. So if it's not a good publisher, it's not open access, but they're charging a high fee, then it's probably not a good idea to publish in that journal. You should try searching for that journal on AGC's website. You should try searching it on the Elsevier website, see if it is okay. If a journal is charging fees, does not necessarily mean it's a scam. Open access journals charge fees, like I said, okay? So you need to think about those things well in advance. Are you ready to pay the fees? If you're not, there are plenty of journals where you don't have to pay the fees. You just need to write a good article. Be ready for rejections. It's part of the business. You get rejected all the time. The first few rejections you'll feel very sad about. You feel hurt. Rejections are not easy to deal with, but it's okay. Sometimes it happens. It happens to most of us, to all of us. Most of the times, it's only once or twice that you get acceptance emails, but before that, 10 times you have had a rejection email. Move on to another journal. Find another journal, resubmit. And happy publishing. I've got these publications that I wanted to show you. I've highlighted the journal's names, so it gives you some idea of good journals that you could publish in if you're from the same area of interest as mine. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ghazal. I think participants are reading your publication details.
I'll keep it on for a couple of minutes and then we can stop the share.
Yeah. It was very good. I mean, we should have some platform which could tell us or which could guide us about the journals. Like we have HJRS from HEC.
Yes.
And it is, I mean, all the time, whenever I have to find a journal, a relevant journal for my study or paper, I go to that. And I think other countries should also have such platforms for researchers.
I know that Norway has such a platform. Norwegian colleagues that I work with, they usually search it on their own link as well. And Elsewhere has got a very good platform as well. The tool that I shared, the Journal Finder, Page has one too. So all good publishers have that kind of a tool where you can put in your article's title and abstract, and you can look for journals that are appropriate for you. I think it's a matter of exploring.
I see. You should have told us about that as well, because that is quite useful.
I did. Let me show you that. This one, journalfinder.elsevier.
Okay.
You put the paper title, you put the abstract, the keywords, and yeah. All right. So let me stop the share. Are we taking questions now, Nadia, or at the end?
I think at the end would be better. Let Dr. Gul finish with his presentation.
That's